Hi, how are you today? My name is Shannon and this is my YouTube channel, Whiskey and Wool, and I have been filming, this is my third year of filming Knitter's Life series, season 3. And the idea behind Knitter's Life was that I have been incorporating things that I think would be of interest to my viewers that are happening in my life. There's a lot of new viewers, so I just wanted to take a few moments to reintroduce myself. Thank you for joining my channel, for subscribing. I really appreciate each and every one of you, both new and returning. But a little bit about me. I live in northern New Jersey, right across the Hudson River from New York City. You probably saw some footage of New York City at the beginning. I do a little, from my view, from my vantage point, what I see in the mornings or afternoons whenever I'm out walking along the river side. I live up on the cliff. I don't live down on the riverbanks, thankfully, because that would really worry me for flooding. But I live up on the cliff, which is a few hundred feet above the shoreline of the Hudson River, and there are homes and apartment buildings and stuff down right along the shoreline. So yes, I recently moved here. I lived in a more suburban area than where I do now. I live in a pretty urban area. I absolutely love it. I love my community, and I love the town. It feels really homey, and even though it's urban, that probably sounds so weird, but there's like actual people live here, you know? Like, it's not like blocks in New York City where you're like, who lives here? This is like real people, not corporations, families, lots of families, and lots of, all different age ranges from, young babies all the way up to, elderly folks. So I really love it. I am a university professor and administrator, so take that for what it is. I'm not going to name where I work because like most universities, the university where I work has bots that look for mention of the name so that they could see what's going on, and this has nothing to do with my job, so I don't need to alert them by mentioning them, so I won't ever mention them. But it is a university in New Jersey that is probably somewhat familiar. I'm drinking a little seltzer. It's the middle of the afternoon on a Saturday, and we're having kind of gloomy weather. It's overcast. Although it's not all that cold out. It's probably in the upper 50s Fahrenheit. You can convert that to Celsius if that's what you're more familiar with. So it's not really sweater and coat weather to me. It's just kind of maybe throw on a sweater. And I don't need this inside. I just kind of put it on for you all. I should say what I teach. So I should also share a little of my background. I did my undergraduate degree in the 1980s in fashion studies, and I went right into the fashion industry, and I worked in that industry. I worked my way up from assistant designer to head knitwear designer for a very large company that is no longer in business, which is typical of garment industry businesses. There are a lot of small mom and pop shops that grow to a certain size and then get absorbed by a bigger company or just close because the founding members or the next generation just decided to do something else. So it's not uncommon. So I worked in New York City and lived in Brooklyn for many, many years. And then I moved to New Jersey when I had children. I have 3 sons. They're all adults. So I'm an empty nester. I am not married. I was married at one point, but that was not for me. So I was a single mom for many, many, many years. 2 of my sons are married now. One of them just got married last week, so at the end of the video I'll have a little montage of the event. It was really darling and amazing and very much them. it was very small. It was just me and them and my ex-husband, and that's it. We went to a courthouse, and we then we went to a restaurant in New York City, and we went to Tavern on the Green in Central Park and did some images, some pictures around Central Park of the day, and then they went off and had dinner alone, and had a whole weekend planned of, their honeymoon in New York. So it was really, really fun. They live in New York. They live in the Bronx. So, that was fun. You'll see pictures at the end. It was very delightful. So I was going to tell you what I teach. So yes, I graduated with fashion studies. I went into the garment industry. I immediately regretted my choice and wished that I had chosen something else, but I persevered for about 10 years, and then I quit to go to grad school, and I went to grad school for counseling, and I really was interested in doing something like art therapy. So I ended up doing like a master's in art, an MFA in studio art, and I made all kinds of stuff, lots of sculpture, mostly metal, and sometimes fabric, sculpture, paper. I used a lot of paper in my work. And I also do a lot of drawing and illustrating and sketching, and sometimes layering those things together. If you're new, if you go back to the videos when I was moving, I filmed, I didn't try to hide anything. I just showed whatever it was, was happening. And there's a lot of images of art in the pictures, I think, in the videos, and all that art is either my own that I made, or friends of mine made. So all the stuff I have in my apartment is all one unique, art piece that somebody made. So I did that, and then I ended up getting a role in a department that is interdisciplinary, where it's a little bit of therapy driven classes, a little bit of culture, and a little bit of like just family dynamics, I guess, is probably family life. It's a good way to put it. It was a weird fit for me at first, but I've really gotten quite comfortable there. I've been there 20 years and I love it. I love working with college-age students. I love teaching them. So I teach classes now. I did all kinds of things. I taught in the fashion studies area. I taught in the jewelry. I taught jewelry making for a while. And I taught some like color theory classes and things about like how the garment industry operates, and production like classes, stuff like that. But I have, and along the way, I was always teaching these classes that were sort of counseling or therapy based. So I am currently teaching 2 therapy based classes. One is called peer counseling, and the other one is called interpersonal relations. They're fun. There's a lot of like personal growth on behalf of my students will have experience lots of personal growth in the class, which is the goal. So it's fun. I love it. I also teach regularly a class on feminism. So feminism and those things sometimes weave their way into the content here, but in a very sort of peripheral way, not intense, or I hope never boring way. That is me in a nutshell. I'm happy to share more. If you have other questions, you can put them down in the comments and I will do my best to reply. Please don't be rude. Please don't be rude down in the comments. I usually get really wonderful comments. I love reading your comments. I read all of them and respond generally. I'm very practiced in reading commentary and responding in a positive manner because I need to do that for my regular work. So So yeah, I tend to do that. And I take criticism pretty well. Although I'm not inviting it here. I'm not inviting criticism. I'll tell you when I'm curious. I do actually have a question for you. I hope I remember to ask it towards the end, because I'll do a little wrap up at the end of this whole video. I usually talk about typical knitting podcast where I talk about what I'm working on and what I am like. So basically what I'm knitting. I'm a spinner too. I'm a yarn spinner. I've been spinning since 2019. I've been knitting. Oh, I should tell you my knitting history. I've been knitting since I was 17 years old. I was a freshman in college. I was going to a school in upstate New York where it was very, very cold. I had come from California because that's where I grew up, and it was never cold there. So this idea that perhaps I needed some wool sweaters was intriguing. I was really broke. My family was just really poor. I grew up in a poor family, and I decided to teach myself how to knit so I could have some wool sweaters that I would want to wear. And that's probably where my whole designing clothes thing came from too. It grew out of necessity, right? Out of this desire to create, but also this necessity to make clothes for less than what I would pay for them. And at that time you could buy, I bought wool at a farm that was down the road from where my college was. And I could buy if I spent like $20, I could buy a sweater's quantity. But the wool was very harsh and not the lovely soft stuff that most of us knit with these days. But hey, it kept me warm. It kept me warm. And I knit with that yarn for probably about 10 years. Like continued to go back to that shop because my parents didn't live all that far from it. I would continue to circle back to that shop and pick up yarn for any knitting project I wanted for at least a decade, even though I was working in the garment industry and I had exposure to all these other things. I think acrylic was really, really big then, and I really I've never liked man-made fibers for myself. So yeah, that is my knitting journey. And I remember like around in the early 80s when I was still in high school, Vogue Knitting magazine, and I would drool over those projects and read about the yarn that they chose, and it would just be like, wow, someday maybe I'll have the money for that for making those things. But you should know too, like the garment industry has changed a lot. It has evolved quite a lot since when I was in it, and prices of clothing has really come down. And these days, of course, like we all know, knitting sweaters is more expensive than just buying one. But you know, there's other benefits to knitting, and there's other reasons why we all do that. And we can talk about that some other time, or, at some other point. If you're interested in hearing about that, do let me know. And we could chat about the reasons. I'd be happy to share, like, why I think we knit. I've thought a lot about it, just crafting in general. So, moving on from there. I learned how to spin in 2019. My children all moved out in the beginning of 2018. So by then, my last two had left. They left together, actually. They were roommates for a little while. They're same age. They're only a few weeks apart. One I gave birth to and one I acquired. So that's how I call them faux twins. Their birthdays are about 6 weeks apart. And for those of you who have been here a while, you're going to know that story pretty well. And I'm not going to share it now because I'll just be talking all the time and you'll never see my knitting. And we want to talk about knitting here, don't we? So I'm just going to cut that out and we'll talk about that some other time. And, so that is where I'm at. So what you will see here is a lot of my knitting and some spinning, and sometimes my knitting projects will be with yarns you're familiar with, and sometimes it will be with yarns that I have hand spun, like this one. But I always try to inform you on everything, on, what's up with the projects and, yeah, well, let's just get into it. Let's just talk about what's happening here. If you have watched my videos before this one and before the Rhinebeck one, I'm trying out a new place to tape to record from. Because I think that I was recording in my bedroom and in my apartment, which I moved in June. I moved here in June, so I've been here about 5 months. My bedroom is the only room in the house that's painted a color. The rest of it is white, shades of white. And I really think, so my bedroom's turquoise, and I think you can maybe, if I move a little bit, you can see it right over my head. I'm in front of a mirror. This is a mirror behind me, so you can see the color right there. There's the lamp and then the color. I think that color was creating a cast on some of the colors that I was showing on screen. So I decided to try somewhere else, and we're at what I guess would be my dining room table, if I had a dining room. What I have in this apartment is a pretty big living room that has a section, a corner that is set up for a dining room, as a dining room. It has a dining room table with chairs. So that's where I'm sitting, which is actually really comfortable because all my projects are right here. So it's really easy to grab one and show you. And my recording equipment is also right next to me, so it's super, super convenient here. So yeah. Let me tell you what I'm wearing. This is not a new FO. This is something I knit last year. I don't have any new FOs, new finished objects that I can wear and would cover me. I could wear this, but this is actually a gift. So, and Martha needed something. Martha is my mannequin. That's her right here. I have her, she's up a little high because she is exactly my size. She's exactly my measurements so that I can try my garments on her and know how they're going to fit me. And she's also set at my height. And I thought about dropping her down, but I don't want to try to rearrange the height of her over time. So she's just going to be a little bit towering above me because I'm sitting in a chair. But yeah, anyway. This is Martha the mannequin wearing one of my finished objects. So going back to this, sorry, I'm a little jumping around because I have like a lot of things going on in my head that I want to try to say. So I tend to kind of jump around a little bit as that happens, as things occur to me. So I'm wearing Funfetti by Sylvia Watts Cherry. I think it was in a publication of Lana magazine, though I'm sure it's been out at least a year, and I'm pretty sure you could just buy the pattern if you want instead of having to buy the magazine. I knit it out of Lamb & Kid. They're really luxurious. I mean, all their bases are really luxurious and expensive. It was, oh my gosh, I cannot recall, but everything will be down in the description box. It's something that's a DK, and I stocked Sarah's of Lamb & Kids. She does like this weekly special where certain colors are on sale. So I stocked her sales for several months in a row last fall to come up with this palette. And this sweater, I think you only need one or two skeins, maybe two skeins of each color. And then the trim is just one skein. I want to say it's two skeins. I might have purchased 3 skeins of each. It's this DK weight. Gosh, I wish I could remember it. It's super soft. I want to say it has yak in it. Maybe it's like yak and cashmere and wool, something like that. Wow. Wow. I'm a bad podcaster. I really just don't remember. Sorry. I wish I did. I don't even remember all the names of the colors. I think K is the blue, Caften is the orange. Oh, I don't remember the gold or the brown. Brown is chili because it's kind of like a reddish brown. But I freaking love this sweater so much. It's so soft. I really would love to make another one. but using different yarn that's maybe not quite as expensive. So I don't know, I'm gonna think about that. I love the silhouette too. It's kind of got this quasi like drop shoulder. It's definitely a drop shoulder, but it's sort of a set-in sleeve. And you know, were I to make it again, I might make it a little smaller, like do the smaller size. I maybe chose too large of a size for me. But yeah, lots of information. I am an avid Ravelry poster, so if you have access to Ravelry, you could see all the details for all my projects in there. I tend to take pretty good notes as well, and I always write what modifications I made. I don't think I made any mods on this. Like, I don't remember making any modifications. And yeah, that is what I'm wearing. Finished objects. Let's talk about what Martha's wearing. So this is Chevronopolis by Maxim Cyr. I recently finished it. I finished it ahead of the Rhinebeck episode. It is knit out of some, I'm going to take it down so you can see, and then maybe I'll put it back up so you can see it. It is knit out of Magpie Fiber Swanky Sock in a colorway, that's the blue that you're seeing all through it, that like speckled blue. In a colorway that they made for Winter Solstice in 2021 when I bought their Winter Solstice Celestial Countdown calendar. So this was the final skein in the calendar. I see some ends I need to trim back here. The other color in this shawl is my own Handspun, and I spun it in such a way that it would self-stripe. So that's what you're seeing here. So it actually started here. Started down here. You cast on like maybe 7 or 8 stitches, I think, down here, and then it grows and grows and grows this way. It is a mosaic colorwork pattern. It felt like it took forever, but I think that's what happens with mosaic. It's like brioche. Like brioche, you're knitting 2 rows to get 1 row. So with mosaic, you're knitting 2 rows to get 1 row. But yeah, I am so happy with the way it came out. This is actually for one of my sons. This is a birthday gift. His birthday is in December. So I am gifting this to him. I owe him a sweater. He probably has the fewest knits. Well, that's not necessarily true, that boy. That boy is the biggest kid of the 3, the biggest adult. He is almost 6 feet tall, and he's probably like a size 48-inch chest. So he's got kind of a barrel-shaped chest, I would say. So yeah, knitting him a sweater I put it off because he's the biggest one of the 3 of them, and I just needed to get warmed up. Actually, I've talked to him about it, and he hasn't really been all that interested. He wants one, but he doesn't, really, and I think I just need to do it without really chatting with him too much, because I know his colors. These are his colors. He absolutely loves shades of blue, so like this section, this is totally his jam. And he loves reds and purples too. So yeah, that was why I chose this. I was really surprised. Oh, I don't have it here. I'm gonna go get it. So I'll be back. There'll be a little edit here. Okay, so as I was saying with the yarn, this is actually the skein. The pattern said that it needed 2 full skeins of each color. Well, not 2 full skeins, but 2.5, like 600 yards. I was expecting to use about 600 yards of each color, and I think I probably used somewhere more like 500, maybe 500 and change. So I guess that's okay. Like, there's a cushion in there. It just seemed like a pretty big cushion to me. I kept expecting to go through the yarn faster than I was actually going through it. So this is what is left of the second skein of Magpie. Just so you can see it on this. in a cake. And then the self-striping, I had a significant amount of that left as well. So you could just see the colors that I didn't get to. And I actually have one more skein of that self-striping. I had made a sweater's quantity of that self-striping. It was primarily blue, and yeah, I just didn't know what to do with it. So I just thought this pattern would be good and it would use most of it, but it turns out it didn't even use half of it, which is fine. I'll find something else to make it with. And the shawl is gorgeous. Like, I really, really love it. I did do some modifications. As I was knitting it and it was growing, I just felt like it could grow faster. So I started to add more increases. So if you've made this shawl, you might not think, you might think yours doesn't have the long tip tail like I have. But somewhere around here in this wine colored section there, I started to increase more. So I added an extra increase every 4 rows. If you know the pattern, you'll know what I'm talking about. And I kind of wish I did it earlier just to get a little more length, because I wanted it to be like generous enough to, for him to wrap. I mean, again, he's a big guy, so I wanted it to be generous enough for him to wrap around and have a tail to tie in the front, and do that kind of, off kilter V. Yeah, like that. He's gonna love it. I'm so excited. I know he's gonna love it. All those other fiddly things that I dealt with, he's not even gonna know about. He's just gonna love it. It's super, super soft. This hand knit or hand spun that I made it using Loop Fiber Studio bullseye bumps, if you know what those are. I just spun through the bullseye bump and followed the colors that Steph of Loop Fiber Studio had laid out in her bullseye bump. It's really, really fine merino, and it is so, so soft. So this shawl ended up being really, really squishy and soft and just has a beautiful hand. I really, really love it. Okay, I'm gonna cut in here and redress Martha. All right, there you go. I have another finished object. This was nearly done when I showed you when I last did a knitting based episode. This is the Manhattan hat by Tori Yu, and I actually wore this at Rhinebeck. It is also knit out of some of my hand spun. This was my first attempt at chain plying, and I chain plied in color order of the way that the bat was dyed by the dyer. It's 100% BFL, and yeah, just really, really cool. I love it so much. I should note that the pattern is written to be 1x1 rib, and I inadvertently did 2x2. I just didn't look close at the pattern, and I didn't remember. I have made this pattern before. In this past winter, I made a couple versions of it. I got really into making the pattern for family and friends this past winter. So yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. It worked though. I didn't realize that I chose 2x2 and it should have been 1x1 until I got to the decreases up here. But I really love the shape of this hat. It just looks super cute on. You can, do a single fold or a double fold depending on like how you like to wear it, how slouchy you want it. And yeah, it's a fun knit. Highly recommend. Everyone seems to love it. Like, it's got kind of a cool hipster vibe, I would say, that hat. I'm gonna work backwards with oldest cast on, oldest cast on to newest, I think. Actually, that's not true. I'm gonna pull up the rear with my oldest cast on. But I wanted to share with you my progress on my Rumble Raglan by Lydia Morrow. Here we go. It is almost done in terms of the body. I think what I'm going to end up doing is, you see how the repeat is red, and then this peach, and then it's bright pink, and then it's like a speckle in bright pink. I think I'm going to end up repeating this whole bright pink section down on the bottom in order to get the length I need. I think I'm going to at least like increment, like, so the entire repeat of the colors you can see here, starting from the neck going all the way down to here. So that's the color repeat of the pattern. Of the way that I did it, I did modify. I do have an extra color in here. So I'll talk about that in a sec. I'll talk about the yarn in a sec. There is a reason, a reason behind why I chose to do that. So yeah, I'm almost done with the body. I probably have another like 3 inches, and then I'll do the ribbing, and then I'll come back and knit the sleeves an inch or so, maybe 2 inches, and then add ribbing there, and then this will be finished. It does block out to be, it's all in superwash, so it will block out to be quite a lot bigger than it's looking on screen. And I did make some modifications. One of the modifications is kind of obvious. It is I have an extra color. This is a 3-color sweater, which is actually pretty cool, because if you're like me and you have a lot of like single skeins, like just one skein of a color and fingering weight that you were thinking you were gonna make socks, but you ended up like continuing to collect skein after skein, like I did. I probably have about 50 single, not merino singles, but like single color, single skein, one skein of a color, and almost all of them are speckled. So this sweater is a pattern that you can use 3 of those together to make your own creation. So I started to dig through my stash, and I had this like really beautiful Halloween-y color called Halloween Town from Vida Lifestyle, in, for socks, that I was like, I don't know when I'll make socks out of that. And I also had some nearly full skeins from Lobby and Aimée of a Cashmerino. I bought a whole bunch of them to make a stripe sweater, the Stripes by Andrea Mowry, a while ago, and so I didn't use them all up, but I had nearly full skeins. So I ended up putting these 2 together. This one was almost complete. I didn't use very much of this at all, but these 2 were more partial skeins, like more like 200 and change in terms of their yardage. So I decided to use these 2 together as one color and then alternate the use of them. And then this one is on its own, like standing alone along with this one. So that was the way I incorporated a 4th color, and I think it worked pretty well. I like it, but it allowed me to make the pattern the way the pattern was written without running out of yarn, because I was a little worried I was gonna run out of yarn. The other couple modifications I did, I went way up in size. So this is a sweater that is meant to have 10 inches of negative ease in the chest, and I decided that I was nervous. Like I was like, oh, that's a ton of negative ease. So I decided to knit the size that would be closer to my bust line. So basically 0 negative ease. Because although I don't mind having 0 to, an inch or 2 of negative ease across my bust, I did not want the sweater to be tight around my hips. So I decided to just knit a bigger size. So I'm knitting the size 6. And the other thing I noticed in looking at people's patterns, there's a lot of project pages on Ravelry and on Instagram too, if you want to take a look. On Ravelry, I think you get a little bit more idea of you get more progress photos than you do on Instagram. But what I noticed was that the shape of the shoulder was very angular. So I added more increases here so that I would get more of this like square shoulder versus like triangular shaped body. I wanted more of a squared body, and so that part worked really well. And what I ended up doing, because this, like most typical, especially old school Raglans, you're only increasing, you have an increase row and then a non-increase row. Like almost every Raglan I've ever made is constructed that way. But what can happen is that you end up getting a very, very long yoke, like from shoulder to the armpit. It can be like a little too long for your body. And that happens to me so frequently. So I'm very mindful of doing some modifications. And what I ended up doing was, instead of doing a single increase on the increase rounds, I did a double increase. And then I still had that rest row where there were no increases. So that allowed me to one, build out the shoulder, and two, shorten the yoke so that to a measurement that I knew would work really well on me. So remember, I have all that fashion background. So speccing garments and figuring out the dimensions that you need for good fit are in my wheelhouse. It was part of my training. It was part of what I did for a living. So I am very much aware that for a fitted garment, I need 8.5 inches from my neck to the armpit, and that a more looser yoke would be 10 inches max. So somewhere in that 8.5 to 10 inches is my sweet spot. But beyond 10 inches, it feels a little too draggy and a little like there's a little too much fabric. I don't like being able to pull my arm through without taking my sleeve off. Like, that's a no-go for me. I just won't wear that sweater. It'll be uncomfortable. So that was kind of killing two birds with one stone by doing those extra increases. That also allowed me to shorten the yoke and get to the length. I think it ended up being about 9.5 inches here. And I think I'm going to lose some of that length when it gets blocked and some of that ease or length goes into the width. Because if you see pictures of this, you'll see that there's quite a lot of growth that happens this way in this sweater. So, yeah, so that's the Rumble Raglan. I actually have, if you go back a couple episodes, you'll see when I was thinking about making this, I had two project ideas in mind, and so I do have I have a second one planned. I am planning to do both of them, and that yarn is all caked and ready. This just needs to get off the needles so I can make sure that I modified it in a way that I'm going to wear it. Because if I didn't, then I want to do further modifications to get it to the point that I can wear it. I neglected to share these colorways names. The pale peach is called Ichigo, and it has like little speckles of this bright sort of neon coral. The magenta or pink one is called Pinku with a U, pink with a U at the end, and it's like a tonal pink. And then the red is Calicifer, and it is like red with fuchsia interspersed and orange, bright orange. So I think they're working together really well. I love it. I'm excited to have it done. I should have it done in the next episode. And it is living in an old Halloween bag that I got from Fat Squirrel Fibers. I really, really love it. It's so cute. So yeah, I got to get this project done so I could pack up the project bag for next year. I think I showed this last time. I don't think this is a new cast on for you. Maybe I talked about it last time, but I have cast on the Stripey Unicorn by Joji Locatelli. Just trying to figure out which is the front and which is the back. Okay, that's the front. Yeah, those weird. So, yeah, those weird spots that are right in the front. I might end up having to do something about those. We'll see what happens. So this is Stripey Unicorn by Joji Locatelli. It is a micro stripe raglan sweater with this roll neck, which I love. I really love this roll neck. And what you do is knit with it's a sport weight sweater pattern, and you knit in with one row of sport weight in a solid, and then one row of Spincycle dyed in the wool. I'm using Deep Bump Spincycle, and my sport weight is this beautiful deep dark teal by Les Garçons called Edith's Butler, and I'm using their British Sport. It's quite nice. It's beautiful yarn. I used the British Sport in one of my tessellated vests that I made. Yeah, so this pattern, it's interesting. I love the way it looks. I'm not enjoying knitting the yoke because no increase row is the same, and it's not memorizable for me. It's a 12 row repeat of increases. And these things here, these marks that are, these blobs that showed up that really look like somebody mangled my sweater, those are from doing the short rows. And maybe I did something wrong, or maybe my tension was too loose, and maybe it'll work, it'll block out when I block the sweater, but I really don't love those. Those are right in the front. This is the front of the sweater, so those are gonna hit right there. I don't know, like I said, maybe I did something wrong. I thought I followed the directions pretty well. I'm usually pretty good at following directions. I'm a long time knitter. But yeah, I don't know what happened. I really don't know what happened. I did what she said. I did the type of short row too. It was wrap and turn, which I love. That's my favorite short row. So yeah, I don't know. I was looking closely at hers, trying to figure out if she also had something like this, and maybe it just was a little more blendy. So I don't know. Maybe I was supposed to go a couple more stitches or something, because it really is kind of weird and awkward. And I may end up just going back in and doing some duplicate stitching if that doesn't block out. The back isn't so bad. I was messing around with doing different ways to join the round, so right in there I have some errors, but I think that will definitely take care of itself in blocking, because I think if I pull it, if I stretch it a little bit, those stripes pretty much line up, so it's not too bad. So yeah, other than those hiccups, Joji, I love her so much, and I love her designs. I think they're generally fairly straightforward knit patterns and are pretty easy to knit. But this one, wow, I am not loving doing this yoke. And I had thought I might do another one. I'm not sure. Certainly if I do another one, I'm going to do it in a different way. Like maybe not with Spincycle, I don't think. Yeah, I don't know. I have an idea actually, which I'll show you a little later in this video. But yeah, this is Stripey Unicorn. I mean, other than those two blobs of what looks like glaring mistakes to me, like really bad, I really love, like, if I show it to you like this, I really love the way the rest of it is looking. It looks really awesome. I love the color combo. I'm gonna get a lot of wear out of it, I think, if I can figure out how to take care of that mess. If you have any ideas, or if you've also knit it and you didn't like it, I don't want to knit or tink back and redo that part, because the rest of these raglan increases has not been fun, because she's got, as you can see, like for every stitch marker I have on here, that's a spot where you do increases sometimes. So yeah, it's just been like not like completely breathless, like you're following a chart breathless, like that type of knitting, but it's not been enjoyable. I'm every time I pick it up, I'm just like, oh, I want to get done with the yoke so I can just like go into mindless knitting mode. Yeah. Getting honesty and authenticity here. Okay, a cast on you have not seen in a while, but I have been working on lately. I cast this on back in, I want to say like March or April, when I was like bored and waiting for my freaking closing on my house to happen, and my apartment, because I bought the apartment. So it was like a really long procedure, like waiting to get for the closing. So I got bored and I was like, I'm gonna do some color work mitts. And I decided to cast on the Underwing Mitts by Erica Huser, I think is her name. Huser. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but I'll put it on screen. So I am almost done with the first mitt. Last time I showed you, I think I had just done the moons, like the moon border. So yeah, there it is. The right side. This is the right mitt. So I just have maybe like 5 or 6 more rows to go, and then you do a 1x1 rib trim across the top. But yeah, I really have been having fun. This is what the other side looks like. It's really interesting to me, you know, people talk about, dominance, color dominance, and color dominance, like I follow what Arnie and Carlos say about, if you know them from Arnie and Carlos from their YouTube channel, what they say about color dominance. They say that if you're having color dominance in your color work, you have a tension problem. And I very definitely, so when I do color work, I hold 1 strand in each hand, and I'm an English style knitter. So this is I always hold my yarn in my right hand, but when I'm doing color work, I'll hold it like this. So 1 in each hand to do the colors. And I don't tension my yarn as tight in my left hand as I do it in my right hand. So I very much know that when up till about here, till this row here, I was holding the white in my left hand, and then I switched them because there was more black happening when I was doing the moth on the front. So I switched them, and then I knew from here, like from here to here, from about halfway through that circle, I was holding the black in this hand. So you can very definitely see the difference. I do think it'll block out. So yeah, I mean, it's good to know that I had never seen it so stark before, such a stark difference. And I guess it was just because I was knitting the same motif over and over on the inside of the mitt. But yeah, this is an old pattern. It's been around a while. I've seen it in person on people. I've loved it. I've always loved it. They are fingerless, and I wear fingerless mitts a lot. I have a pair of black ones that have seen better days, and I know I need to replace them. These are really great, actually, specifically for driving for me. I commute by car. I drive to my office, so these are really great, and I'm going to make sure that I make enough rib that I'll be able to tuck my fingers in on my walks from my car to my office building. I work on a big campus, so the walk from parking to my office is long. It's like 20 to 30 minutes, so I do get pretty chilly on those walks. But yeah, if you're not familiar, there is a place right here. These white stitches, maybe I should show you on this side where there's no stitch marker. These white stitches right here in the lower wing end up getting duplicate stitched with a color. And I'm going to use turquoise because that is my favorite color. And I have a turquoise coat almost always, along with a black coats. I love black as well. So yeah, that is the plan. Although I know people have left this unduplicate stitched, and it actually looks pretty nice. But I think a pop of color might be nice in there. So yeah, I'm excited to get these done. I wished I had them done earlier this week when we had a few very, very cold days where it was like below freezing when I was leaving my house in the morning. So, oh, yarn. I've had this yarn forever, for a long time, probably since 2016 or 2017. Do I have the cards? Oh, I do. Oh, cool. The yarn, I'm using a natural sheep black, so it's got kind of more of that chocolatey black color, and then a natural white. These are both natural sheep colors. And the yarn is from, it's fingering weight from Green Mountain Spinnery. And as I'm holding that, let me read it to you. It is Lana. It's her sock, 2-ply sock weight, 100% fine wool, 400 yards out of 100 grams. So yeah, it is. Yeah, it's really, it's not super soft, but I have a feeling it's gonna wear really well. So, and I suspect it will soften up when I block it. So we'll see. I'll let you know. I mean, it's soft enough for me to wear. I wouldn't have trouble wearing it at all. But also, I've owned this for some time, so I don't know if, like, what you would get if you were to order this yarn. It's super affordable, very affordable wool. And Green Mountain Spinnery, I mean, they're awesome. They have really nice, it's all non-superwash wool. They've been around a long time. They were in business when I learned how to knit in the 80s. I remember seeing them at Rhinebeck when I went in the 80s, so long ago. I stopped going for some time. Just didn't have the time. Busy mom of young kids, so I stopped going, and then I didn't go back. I took like maybe a 20-year break, and then I didn't go back until 2016. So yeah, I actually have a sweater's quantity of that black and white. I thought I was gonna make a particular sweater 6 years ago that I never made. That's never happened to you, right? Like, I'm weird, right? Totally joking. I think it happens to every knitter. Yeah, so I now have a new plan for the yarn, but I want to finish the mitts first, and then I'll be casting on a black and white sweater, which I'll talk more about when I have it to show you. I have a new cast on that is almost a half finished object. I have cast on Andrew Mowry's Bear Paw sock, modified because she has her Bear Paw sock pattern, which is a toe up 2x2 rib sock pattern with a fleagle heel, which I really love making because it feels seamless in terms of the knitting process. Like, I'm not stopping to make a flap and then going back and picking up stitches. I don't really like that part of sock knitting. So this type of heel feels really intuitive, and I have the pattern memorized by now because I've made so many of these. So I've modified the pattern because her Bear Paw pattern is knit with US size 4 or 3.5 millimeter, and I'm using 3 millimeter US 2.5 for my socks. And I actually modified her original DRK everyday sock pattern to be worked in DK weight yarn. I tried Bear Paw. I had done that before Bear Paw came out. Bear Paw came out. I tried Bear Paw as it was, and I wore those socks a couple times, and I ended up frogging them and re-knitting them with the smaller needle. I just like the way the fabric feels much better with the smaller needle. And I had already worked out my own shoe size. I wear a size 8 shoe, so I had already worked out the stitch count and everything that I needed, and the modifications for the heel and stuff. It's very formulaic, so if you find if you try it, give it a whirl. I have my stitch counts written on my patterns, on my project pages, I should say. So you could, look at what I've used. I've made these socks, and I'm doing another set of socks for my children and their partners this year. This particular pair is for one of my daughter-in-laws. Can't believe I can say one of them. I have two now. So us women, me and my two daughter-in-laws, all wear the same size shoe. So we all wear a women's size 8 shoe, which is really convenient for me because I know if it fits me, it'll fit them. And yeah, so I have it. I'm almost done. I use these small like hat and sock projects to take to work on during meetings and stuff. They're nice and small. They sit on my lap. Most people don't even know that I'm knitting. They don't necessarily notice, and because I don't really want to draw attention to it, I'm paying attention to whoever's speaking. So I was able to get quite a lot of this done since I last in the last 2 weeks, and yeah, that's it. That yarn is Hedgehog, which I haven't knit with Hedgehog in a long time. She really is a genius when it comes to speckling. And this color is called Deepened, and it's just her regular 100% superwash merino, merino DK. Yeah. And I know one skein is enough for a pair of socks for any of us except my biggest kid. It would probably be better to have like 260 yards or so for him versus like 220 or 240, because he wears size 13 shoes. He wears really big shoes. So I've already made his, though. I made his earlier in the year, so I've got his made for Christmas, and I used some Handspun that I had, and I had plenty of yarn, so I was able to give him a nice generous leg length, which last year I used the same brand yarn for each of them, and his leg was pretty short just because I had to make the foot so much bigger. So my other sons are a men's size 8.5 and a men's size 10, so there's 4 sizes that you could look at and maybe modify if you're interested in doing that type of modification to the Bear Paw Sock by Andrea Mowry. And that is all my knitting. I've been project planning though, and before I show you, I do have a little bit of spinning, but before I show you that, part of my project planning has included frogging a project. So I'm an old project from, I think it was from 2021, but I think I give you the whole spiel in the clip that I'm about to show you. It's about 5 minutes of me telling you why I made that choice and what I'm thinking of. So I'm going to let you watch that, and then I'll meet you back here with some spinning. I thought I would share with you this project, which I'm about to frog, actually. I have a really good idea for these mini skeins. So what you're looking at here is the leftovers, and some over here too, of a Advent countdown from Olan from 2021. And it was the first time she did a countdown calendar, and what she did was she had the shawl designed, so it's a round shawl or blanket designed, and as you can see, I haven't finished it. I still have yarn there and yarn here. I'm on this border right here. I knit this, so, and what she did too was it's a gradient, as you can see, so pretty. And she alternated each day with one of her mill spun yarns and her indie dyer on, like superwash 100% merino, I think. And this was all centered around a theme. So this theme of like winter solstice and the sun rising and all of that. And I mean, this is really beautiful. And I did a lot of work on it. I actually knitted on it I tried to keep up, but it was just too complex. Like you can see, there's a lot of textured knit in there. I couldn't keep up. So I lost, once I knew where it was going, I sort of lost my motivation to finish it because I could see it was going to be this big round blanket that, you know, I just don't really want. Even though it's really pretty, it's just not my thing. It's not my style. And I started to think that perhaps it would be fun to knit the Stripey Unicorn, alternating these tonal solid mill spun with the fun indie dyed, which are heavily speckled and have multiple colors. And what Jess had us do, or what she had the designer do, was design it so that, you know, you're knitting with this mill spun, and then you're knitting with this speckled indie dye, and then you're doing the next mill spun, and then, or you're combining them somehow. Like this section here is a combination of these two colors alternating. I mean, it's beautiful, but I was thinking to myself, like, oh my gosh, this would be so amazing as a Stripey Unicorn, doing the exact same thing in micro striping, the fun indie dyed, so it would kind of look like this. The fun indie dyed with the more muted tonal mill spun. So I'm going to rip this out. I'm going to frog this. I'm going to frog this project because I'm never going to finish it. And I would like to recover the needles and the markers and all that. And recover the yarn and use it and put it into something that I'll wear. So funny enough, like as I'm looking at this, I was like, oh, this is really great. I have a feeling I only will need 10 skeins of each. So what I'm gonna do is frog this and recake the yarn and see what I have. I mean, obviously these here I may or may not use, but I definitely want to start with this pale pink at the top and work my way down. I don't know if I'm going to do the greens and yellows that are here. I may save those for something else, and I might just go right into these more purpley tones. But I think the first thing is to get everything frogged. And see what I have. But I just thought I'd share that with you. I hope you're not too sad. I'm going to frog this. I'm not sad at all about it, but I can imagine some knitters being a little sad about all this work. I mean, this is work from 2 years ago that I'm never going to finish. And if you watch Les Garçons, Maxim Cyr and Max and his partner Vincent both got this kit, and Max finished his, and I don't think Vincent even started his. So, you know, you don't always have to make what the pattern they give you. It's just more important that you use the yarn in something that you're going to love. Yes, so here it is. This is day one, and that's it. They didn't all fit. Day one would have rolled off. But here's how they go. Day 1, 2, 3, all the way down through shades of pink into a transition to gold, which I think this skein has some gold in it. So you can kind of see why that transition that way, and then into shades of green. Here's 2 I didn't combine yet, and then into this really beautiful sort of neutral, like I don't know what that is. Is it purple? Is it green? Is it, I don't even know. I love it though. And then into these red and plum tones until you get to this really beautiful deep dark color here. So I've been thinking about what I'm going to do with the colors, and I think I'm just going to go in order because I was remembering that these are the every other one. So it's mill, indie dye speckle, mill, indie dye speckle, mill, indie dye speckle. That's how we opened them. But I was remembering that these mill spun ones, the yardage is a little less than these. And I think what I'm going to do, I'm not sure, but I think what I'm going to do is knit with each one until they're gone and then just join. And that might mean that eventually these speckles will outpace the mill spun, but I don't know, I can always adjust, right? I can always make an adjustment. I don't love this color. It's a really neutral sort of wheat tone. That's kind of boring to me. But you know, you need boring if you're gonna have some pretty speckles on either side. But yeah, by my calculation, I think I need 8 to 10 mini skeins of each color. So 8 to 10 would take me down to actually all of them that I've caked, because this is 20. This would be 20 right here. This one right here that I didn't cake yet was day 21. So yeah, that's the plan. That I think it'll work. We'll see. If I hate it, I can always rip it back out again and re-knit into something else. All right. So spinning. I have been doing a little bit of spinning. I purchased from Lydia and Aimée some of her new fiber that she launched, the confetti fiber. And I have spun it into a really beautiful 2-ply. I have one regret. It's so pretty. I love all those flecks of yarn. My one regret is that I didn't buy more because this skein is just shy of, this is 1/3 of what I have in terms of the fiber. She sold roving, so if you're a spinner, she sold roving that was mostly merino, like maybe 50% merino, 30% Shetland, and 20% of her yarn nubs. So they're worked in there, and when you spin, those little nubs just get picked into, brought into the yarn, so that you end up with like, yarn that has these fun flecks of color, just like her confetti yarn. So it was an opportunity to spin that fiber that she used for that yarn myself. So exciting. So I underestimated. I bought 8 ounces, 2 braids of roving, and that's usually enough for me to make a sweater's quantity if I spin fingering weight. This is fingering weight. It's maybe on the heavier side of fingering weight, which is my natural spin weight, like heavy fingering, light sport, kind of in there. That's almost always where I end up. But I underestimated those nubs and the percentage. Like, now I'm like, duh, it was 20%. It was 20%. So I needed to do a little adjusting, because those are just going to be these neps or these lumps in the spin. I'm not going to be able to draft those. So I ended up with less yardage than I thought. So I'm going to end up, I think, overall with about 600 yards, maybe, give or take 20 or 30 yards, which is not a sweater's quantity. But it is enough for a Stripey Unicorn if I wanted to do that. I don't know. I'll figure out something. I did go back on her website and see if she had more, and it's all sold out. And I have a feeling what she's going to do is put more on, but it'll be a different color. So I don't know, maybe that's the way to do it. Like, do a color combo, maybe do a color block, or I don't know, some sort of stripe project where I'm striping this with another, like maybe the midnight blue one that she made or something. I don't know. Stuff to think about. I did not spin anymore. I have 2 cats, which I'm sure you might see. If you didn't see clips in the beginning, you're gonna see clips at the end. I usually put them on both sides. One of my cats is a youngster. He's 9 months now, and I cannot leave fluff on my spinning wheel. So when I sit down to spin, I need to spin all the way through the project, or at least like finish out a bobbin, so that there's nothing on my spinning wheel. And this week when I was done spinning, what my little guy did was chew through my drive belt on my spinning wheel. So I had to order another one. and I ordered a backup, so now I have 2 in case he does that again. But now that I know he'll do that, I'll take the drive band off. I won't even leave it set up anymore, so he won't be able to get his teeth on it. But he chewed through it one day when I was at work, so I was pretty furious because it is an expense. It's not terribly expensive, but it's just an annoyance. He's bad kitten, as you'll see so often. He was probably in the clips of me. I can't remember exactly, but he was probably in the clips of me talking about that other project. But I mean, he's adorable. He's a Scottish fold. He's got these adorable little ears that, sit down, and big eyes, and he's a little floof and so affectionate and cuddly, but he's mischievous like cats are. Alrighty, I am going to wrap it up here. I frequently add in clips of, like, sometimes I do whiskey tastings or gin tastings. I did a whiskey tasting the episode before Rhinebeck, so a couple episodes back. And Knitter's Life season 1 and 2, I have whiskey or gin tastings all the way through. Like, every episode I did them. I've kind of gone away from them just because they're, one, very time consuming to curate, and not the whiskeys themselves, but doing all the research, and 2, I just have not been, I've really cut down on what I drink or how much I'm drinking, and so yeah, I've been really just drinking more wine, if I'm honest. So instead I've been putting in like some baking clips. I don't know if I'm going to have anything this time. I know you're going to get a little clip of the wedding, of like that day, like just give you like a taste of what that day was like. But I don't know if I'm going to have anything else. I am planning to make a loaf cake tomorrow or this afternoon. We'll just see how my day goes. I've been pretty beat, I have to say. Like, I've been feeling pretty tired and pretty like overwrought. I think it's just my job and, the wedding a little bit, although that was so fun. It was so enjoyable. I love those two so much. I love all my kids so much. But yeah, it was just so lovely to participate in that. I'm so happy I could do it. So yeah, my job has been really, we're in registration, and if you have college age kids, or if you are a college age person, or you have friends that have college age people, it is very stressful to go through registration in a big university where there aren't a lot of people that students feel like they can turn to ask about classes, and they're super nervous and they have all this anxiety, and it's just been really, really hellacious this week, and I have got the battle wound to prove it on my face, like this horrible cold sore. It's just been really hard. We went through a little bit of a staffing change, and I ended up with a lot more advisement responsibilities than I have had in the past, and I am not happy about it. I really, really find it very stressful. But I don't know, maybe I'll get used to it over time. It might be one of those things that I just need to get used to. So, yes, I've been kind of beat. I've been feeling kind of beat and not kind of low energy. So I just don't know what I'll have, here. So I'm just going to let whatever's there speak for itself. You can find me on Instagram, and I'm not very active there, though. I have to say I'm most active on Ravelry when it comes to posting knitting things. I am meticulous about keeping that stuff up to date because it's something that I like to look at, where Instagram can feel very draining to me, especially when I'm not feeling great, because there's just so much on there, especially some of the stuff that's going on in the world. It's exhausting. I find it exhausting. So as part of my self-care routine, I just jump on and jump off usually on Instagram, and I haven't been that great about posting, I know, but I hope to get better. I hope maybe that's something that I can get better at posting, and get back into that, because I did at one time post a lot, but it's been very complicated. So anyway, I we'll see you again really soon with more knitting and spinning projects to share and some of my life stuff too. And I look forward to my next episode to sharing with all of that with you. Take care.